action. Jazz Today with Richie Byrak and Chris Schreiber.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Rich.
How you doing, man?
Fine. Great.
Cool, right?
Yeah, I like this. All this every day we make a kind of meeting here.
Like a chronicle, like a
I
newspaper.
like it very much and talk about all this
It's very good.
future things and past things and everything in jazz and
It's very good. It gets everything out.
so.
Well, I was going to ask a question. Is there such a thing as...
Oh, we go directly into it.
Sure.
Okay.
As German jazz or French jazz or American jazz or black jazz, white jazz. Is there such a thing as... within the music, can one really hear an element of the nationalism? Like, is there German free jazz?
Oh, you mean this? Okay.
Yeah, that. And that's the first thing. The second thing is that the label free jazz, it's very vague. It's not specific. There's all different kinds of free jazz.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna, if topic for discussion, is it something that can be, like, can you hear it? Can you describe it? Is it true? Or is it just a personal opinion?
Difficult questions. I mean, probably first of all we have to kind of make a definition about
Jazz.
jazz.
Okay, I can try. Jazz is an improvised music played usually in a group that has structure, a predetermined structure and predetermined melody and format, sometimes. And it's a combination of European harmony, European melody, African rhythm, triplet, and American popular songs from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and the blues. Jazz has never been, in my opinion, a pure thing. It's never one thing. I mean, Mozart was Mozart, okay? But even Mozart had influences. But jazz has really always been hybrid. If anyone says, I like pure jazz, they're kind of stupid because it's never been pure. That's the beauty of it, that it's a combination of things. And I also think in terms of jazz, I would say, well, what does it have to be? What does it have to have for it to be jazz?
This is maybe a better question.
Okay,
better question, because this is what you said. I agree, because it's you say it and we understand what you mean, but it can mislead in a wrong direction, that you can say,
right.
Oh, we put everything together and call it jazz.
What does it have to have to be
What
jazz?
does it have to have?
In our opinion, of course.
In our opinion, of course.
Well,
For me, actually,
go ahead.
it's really the kind of triplet feel, or let's say swing.
Swing.
It has to swing.
And how would you define swing?
Yeah, we had this already. I don't know, it's very difficult.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Swing is a rhythmic phenomenon that happens when you have a nice, interesting tension between the quarter note and the triplet. And
Not the quarter note.
Yes.
I don't feel it for a quarter note tension to a triplet, because a quarter note the triplet is based on the quarter note. Takata, takata, takata. There is no tension. The tension is between the eight notes and the triplets. There's no tension. All lies on the quarter notes.
All
I
the
don't feel
syncopations,
tension.
all the syncopations are based off of the
syncopations.
Syncopation. So I would say syncopation is a part of swing.
But this is the syncopation too.
Is that a syncopation?
Of course.
Is it a syncopation? That's an accent. Is it
No.
syncopation?
We have a downbeat, buck, and if you play, you have have syncopation.
But that's
This-
right on,
this
right
doesn't
on 2 and
swing.
4. No, it doesn't swing. It's stiff.
So the syncopation, you mean a triplet syncopation
Of
makes
course.
it swing.
Ding,
But there's no
ding.
tension to the quarter note.
By tension, I don't mean negative. I just mean against.
Yeah,
I don't mean tension, negative tension. I mean, it's
yeah,
the-
but I don't feel it against. It
but
takes the
It's coming from. See how hard it is to describe?
the quarter note is the syncopation is the before the quarter note the downbeat.
Anticipation.
This you mean the
Anticipation. That's what I mean.
syncopation in triplet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But because if you talk about against, I understood there is some, for example, 3 against 2.
Yeah.
Then you have a tension. So this is against.
Here's an example. This does not swing. Ugly, right? But
You
this,
try.
That's
It swings
trying
a
not to
little-
swing.
It swings a little bit. The right hand. Yeah, I'm not agreeing. I'm not agreeing in this example because your left hand didn't swing, but the right hand was swinging.
I can't
In the
do
first example. Now you just played better and both
thank
swinging.
you.
I don't think this leads us to the right thing.
Play some time that you feel
No,
doesn't swing.
Richie, we don't play. It's not too much playing.
Oh, okay.
We wanted to talk about something differently. We're leading in another
Okay,
thing now.
let's go back. We can
We have
edit.
to cut this out. This
Yeah,
is
we
not
can
cool.
edit. Let's talk about, is it possible to say this is German jazz?
That's what many people try to do now, I think.
Yes, and can you describe it? Is it possible to describe it? Other than say, this is Schlippenbach or this is,
I think they put different elements into the jazz and they sell it as jazz and make
Yes.
it more to make it possible to sell because for the name and they use some stuff what they think they can sell. and
Let's
put it
name
into
some
it.
names.
Because for me, I think, but this is a very puritanic probably thinking. For me, jazz is American kind of.
but you're not
Not
American.
only black, but
you're not American, and you play.
yeah, but the style is American. It comes from
Oh, it
American.
comes the source of the style. I agree. That's different. But
Yeah,
can-
and there
anyone
is
can play.
nothing than German jazz, French jazz, whatever. I
no.
don't think.
Okay, let's talk about, for example, Michael Volney.
I don't know enough about him, but
You know the way he plays, or SBN Benson, that guy. That's European jazz. A lot of ECM artists, Deirdre Ripdahl, a lot of those guys, Jan Gabrek, a lot of those guys. This is European. Forget about German. Let's just talk about European and American for a minute, okay? There are elements of jazz in European jazz because the main thing to me about jazz is the fact that it's improvised. That's very important. If there's no improvisation, then I don't want to call it jazz. Then it's written music, whatever style.
But is an improvisation, even if you don't wrote it out, but you have it in your head, you play every night the same improvisation, kind of.
That's against the rules. That's not that's.
So
that's
it's not an improvisation, so it's not a jazz.
It's not jazz if it's not
So-
improvised.
Yeah.
Most of it has to be improvised. Everyone has their ideas,
Yeah.
right?
But is it only in improvisation? In classical music, there is improvisation too.
Very little.
Bach improvised. Is this jazz?
He was an improviser, but everything was written out. No, wrong. Sorry.
No. He improvised every night in the church.
Yes, but he never wrote it out.
Yeah, but so it's improvised. But you call it jazz if it's an improvisation. I think the
It
definition
has to
improvised
be-
music
it's-
is not enough.
Okay, let's talk about the things that have to be there to call it jazz. Improvisation for sure. A certain attitude towards rhythm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And swing.
And swing. I agree.
And
Emotion,
of course, and improvisation, group improvisation. I would say.
Yeah. Jazz is a
improvisation.
group music. Jazz is social music, unless you play by yourself. But it's basically the most fun and the most interest if it's in an ensemble, because then you have interaction.
That's what I
Spontaneous
meant,
interaction
interaction,
is what makes, to me, a big surprise. That's why you could go see Miles 6 nights and hearing the same tunes, and it's like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You can't do that with classical music. Even if it's great, you go hear the same fantastic Von Karajan Berlin Philharmonic version of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You go once, okay, you go twice. Are you going to go 5 times?
So,
No.
but let's go back to the European thing. Esbjørn Svensson, if you mention it, and
Yeah.
I mean, he said from himself, I'm not a jazz musician, but many people say it's jazz.
But they sell it as jazz, and
Yeah.
that's terrible.
But if he plays 5 nights, he makes an improvisation,
kind of.
probably kind
Kind
of
of.
2, which makes it somehow different than the night before. To
As-
play the Advocatus Diabolus.
The avocado. You mean devil's
Avocado.
devil's avocado.
Devil's
Hey, that's a
avocado.
great title for a tune. The devil's
Absolutely.
avocado. Devil's avocado.
Devil's avocado.
The devil's
That's really great.
guacamole.
That's really good.
Think about the difference between Herbie and Esbjørn Svensson. Okay? Herbie goes in every night, from what I've heard, and I've heard him thousands of times live and on recording, and he plays Stella every night. He plays Baby Voyage. He plays the tunes. And they're very different. Or Autumn Leaves, every night different. And every night the quality and the value is fantastic. That's my mantra. That's what I think.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not so popular now, I must say, even among
Yeah.
musicians. Why? Because it's so difficult.
And you know, I read once, or maybe I don't remember who said it. People want to be surprised by what they know already, and not what they don't know. This, I think, is a really good.
But if they know it, how is it a surprise?
Yeah,
It's kind of
they
anachronism.
don't remember maybe, or it's on another place, or whatever.
They don't
They
really-
won't recognize something public
that they already know.
that they already know, but they want to be surprised at the same time. And we, disturbing most of the time.
Definitely disturbance.
Disturbing and surprising. So, but why can't it be in the European jazz like this?
It can be.
If we say it can be.
It can be, but it's very rare. For example, you're European, motherfucker. You're German. Regina's Russian, living in Germany. It's not where you're from. It's where you are and the world that you live in. You're a German guy, born in Germany. You're a drummer. But to me, you're as good as any American drummer. And you got past the Europeanness of it. Because also your personality, you're really kind of American anyway. You're kind of American and Russian, very expressive and very like you say what you think like Americans. You're not
I'm not sure this has really something to do with this.
I disagree. I
Okay.
think it has a lot to do with your personality.
Yeah, but this is a personal choice, taste, or however what you want.
You were drawn to it. You were, especially Billy. You told me you walked into the room and they were playing and you loved it, and that's American.
Yeah, but this is my personal. That's why
It's all personal.
But there were people who didn't like it. They go out.
I know, but that's why you liked it. So it was my theory is the fact that you so clearly liked it. It was already in you.
Yeah, but exactly. So it has nothing to do with being a German, French guy, or an Italian.
Okay, so let's say
That's-
that.
that's
So
what-
then
that's what I
my
think.
answer to my original question is there such a thing as German jazz, European jazz? No, there's just good jazz. Or,
So misunderstandable.
yeah, well, so let's try explaining better. It doesn't matter where you come from, right?
I personally think with the time, I mean, here were the Americans after the war.
Mm-hmm.
They played in these places, the American music, rock and roll, jazz,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So people liked it. And with the time,
It's
I
exposure,
have the
exposure.
feeling in Europe there is a kind of anti-Americanism, which lead it also in the music. We wanted to go away. I mean Europeans,
Because
wanted to have their own
identity.
We have our classical identity, much more than the Americans, of course.
American has no classical.
No problem.
Country music is.
So now they want to steal maybe the jazz and put it together with the classical, with the development of classical music to contemporary free music. I have this feeling.
It's a horrible thing, but I think you're right.
This has also a political background. I think there is a big anti-American.
Even today, even though they copy American and there's McDonald's and everything's Americanized a lot.
Maybe that's why, maybe.
Because they hate it, because they...
I don't know, but I feel this, by the way, in France too. By the language, they want to avoid what we call Anglicism. To use American words.
Yeah. Well, it's true in Japan. I mean, you know, I've been to Japan a million times like you, and the first thing you see when you get into Tokyo is McDonald's, Starbucks, and Hard Rock Cafe. Japan is very, very difficult because it's one of the oldest cultures. It's 5,000 years old, and they have a fantastic culture, a beautiful culture, years and years and years, and a lot of it has been denied, taking over the American culture because of whatever. Maybe political, because we destroyed them in the war. We wiped them out. So there's a love-hate thing, right?
I don't know if it's so deep, but...
I'm just saying.
I'm not sure it's because of the war. I think it's more because many people have maybe the feeling the Americans are overtaking. I mean, this is the rule is the policeman of the world. They fixed a lot of things.
They helped a lot of things,
they helped,
and
but
they destroyed a lot of things.
And
yeah,
they're
absolutely.
overtaking somehow.
That's right.
Music. I mean, the show business and everything.
It's all American.
It's all American.
Yeah, we know that.
And the best is American.
We know that.
There's nothing as good.
No.
Why? So maybe it's a jealousy, maybe too. I don't know.
I agree. Very good. So,
I think this is a part of the black people too, because you have the black people, and they brought and bring a totally different happiness culture, deep music,
absolutely, an approach,
swinging an approach, and which we don't have so much. And I don't know. I'm not sure it's especially a German thing. Maybe it's especially in German somehow. Yeah. I was very surprised when you was teaching in Leipzig, because you were actually in the enemy land. I mean, East Germany.
Forget it. That's even twice.
The free part. And didn't you throw a lot of people out?
Yes, we did. A lot of people. It was very bad. When I first came to the school, one of the conditions was, because the level was very low, they let everybody in. And they had all these adjunct professors like Schoenecker and Christian Rover and these guys that were teaching by the hour. So the more students they had, they would let people in. I had students that couldn't read bass clef because they let them in. Also, the political thing is, the more students, the more the state gives you money for the constituents.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
That's a really bad thing too.
It's terrible. But Ralph had some very good things about him, and he hired me, and he said, I'm sick and tired of the Leipzig, the classical part of Leipzig school, which was fantastic, 160 years old, started by Felix Mendelssohn. Says, this has got one of the highest reputations in the world, of course Europe, as a classical institution. The violinists, they go directly into the Gewandhaus Orchestra, and you could see the level was amazing. And the jazz department started like 40 years ago, with no professors, and everybody could come in, and free, and boogie woogie, and like kind of East German jazz, which is like even worse, than the German jazz. They had no quality control. So Ralph was sick of that. And he said to me, I'm going to hire you. He said, one of the goals is, of course I want you to teach because you're a good teacher. I want you to raise the level of this jazz school to approaching the classical school. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it, and I want to do it. I said, but you have to back me up. He said, okay. Because he was the boss then. He was the rector of the jazz department. I said, here's what I want. I will do the auditions. I would, twice a year, 2 weeks a year in June and February. And I would listen to 50 piano players and bass players. I said, but I want to decide at least who I teach, who the piano players comes in. He said, okay. I said, I'm not going to take everybody. The reason you have the level is shitty is because you take everyone. You can't do it. It's very nice. It gives everyone a chance. But I'm sorry, it's not a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's based on talent. It's based on merit, on how good you are. If you want to raise the level, that's what they do in the classical school. So I said, will you back me up? He said, yes. So the first audition comes, and there's like 35 piano players. And there's some piano teachers here, who I will not mention names, who are not professors, who get paid by the amount of students they have, by the hour. So they want to, and I'm the boss, but I'm saying, so what do you think? And this guy comes in, he can't really play. He plays a shitty right hand and doesn't know the bridge to this song. And I said, well, I don't think we can take this guy. He says, well, he's not so bad. He's teachable. I said, no. So, so wait, let me finish. I'll be finished in a minute. So I said, I'm sorry. No, because by the way, I had to teach him. I had to teach him. I said, no, that's not right. So I won. And I made some enemies. And sometimes parents of the kids that wanted to go to school, who also gave money to the school, they were pissed off. But Ralph was very good. He backed me up. And after 5 years, all the students that were there that were not so good, we pushed them out. They graduated. And then we started developing the great. It all comes to the Aufnahmeprüfung. The level is important in terms of teaching. And then the level of teaching really will determine the quality of the music in the country, because they go out into the world.
Of course. But this was different probably because the system before, if you're starting a jazz department or a university, before I have a music school, and there the teachers are paid by the amount of people they're teaching. So you had to transform the things. So you throw some people out, not because they're maybe, of course they're probably not good enough, but it was a transformation from a kind of music school or conservatorium to a jazz department.
Absolutely.
So this always poses problems, of course.
If you have a community school, then you take everyone. And
because they pay.
Yeah.
And then some people get a certain amount of money, have to teach 30 hours or 20, whatever, or you have the kind of contract where you teach 20 hours and you get 20 hours paid. So this was probably a different thing. But of course, if you want really do a good jazz department, you need good teachers and good.
You need good professors. You need good teachers and good students. And we eventually did.
Yeah. But the interesting thing now, I mean, Leipzig was well known, I think, in these times, with the time as a new, a new part of the jazz coming with some good. We don't mention names, but good people coming out. But is it still like this? And why they didn't go ahead with the same
from what
style?
What I hear, and I'm in touch with some people there, it's not the same. The level is different. And also it has to do with the piano teachers and the teachers. I was there 15 years, and it was a great thing. We had great students. We had fun. The school level came up very much. But then they wanted something different after me. They weren't trying to find another Richie.
No, that's okay, but they could find somebody who could be in the tradition.
I know. There was another piano player, we won't mention the names, who lived in Berlin.
Yeah, I know.
A German guy who was very good. And one of my, not students, but young, And he auditioned, and because I was there at the audition for the next professor. It was kind of funny, right? And I said, that's the guy. And they liked him, but they didn't want to continue my tradition. They just wanted something else.
And this is the thing I'm thinking about.
So now we talk about the real reason.
Yeah.
What is a lot of the reason why the level is not so great now in Germany or France is because of the teachers that they hire. And the teachers are responsible for molding and training the students. And if you have a teacher who is very limited or let's say not so great, and he's teaching 100 students, they knew those students are going to go out into the world, and that's why you don't have that level.
That's exactly what I think too.
Okay.
And you can even in Mannheim, for example, you can hear it in the name, because they, if I'm not wrong, it was a jazz department.
Oh,
now it's a jazz and pop department,
That's
or
awful.
jazz and
Pop music?
pop music or music department. So
Jazz and theater?
yeah, not theater, but
Why not just jazz? What's wrong with that?
That's the point. It's too limited, probably.
For who?
Yeah.
For the donors?
I mean, I was in a real bebop school.
Great.
It was called bebop school. At the end, it was a bebop school. Hardcore, bebop, hardcore. And this was teach. There were no pop music or.
There was no chromatic
With
shit,
Joe, we
right?
talked about it already. He opened it a little bit to free jazz or whatever, but at the end, it was really ding, 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 ding.
But did they have anybody like us there teaching really
Billy
modern?
Brooks, Sal Nistico, Woody Shaw was very often there.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Andy Scherer,
Who was the piano teacher?
Joe Hyder,
Yeah.
and before they had some different people, some Swiss people, but they were maybe not well known, but they were in the bebop style.
Well, bebop, okay. But they say
They
if
liked
you-
it and they said it, and this was.
Did they call it
So
a
we played all the time the standards. We had to do all the standards.
Great.
It was not like in the Berklee College of Music where you had like you had, or what you did in Leipzig, like you have a Wayne Schroeder program and a Miles program
Right.
or Joe Henderson program. But bebop, all these things and
Well, that could be good too. I mean, the foundation is important. The thing is that why aren't there more really great young players with talent and innovation and doing something new? A lot of it has to do not with the music. It has to do with the politics of working and selling records. There's no more record industry, really. People, if somebody puts years and years into school and practicing, and they're seeing from their teachers, telling them, listen, you better have another way to make a living. Lieb says that. Lieb, he says, they say to Lieb, what's your message to the students today in the jazz school? He says, double major. In other words, find something else that you can do related to music where you can make some money. Yeah. Because now we were lucky. We could make a living playing.
Yeah.
And a lot of others too.
On the other side, many people coming and they are rich. Young people here
That's true.
can be rich. So they're not working, they're saying, okay,
They're not
I'm
worried.
spending the money, I'm doing what I want. And what I found interesting is many people go to this school and they won't really learn about the music, something. They're going to a jazz school and then they're playing singing, songwriter music or pop music or stuff like this. This is the interesting why. And I think it has something to do with the being, let's say, famous or getting some money or getting, because with jazz, if we are honest, this is underground music.
It
If
always
it's really
was,
jazz,
and
it
it
always
always will be underground in the sense it's too difficult for mass understanding. It just is. I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't, but I accept that it's not. I accept it needs, like classical music, a lot of classical music needs more education, more exposure. Now, the difference is classical music, because it has the pedigree, it has the approval, they support a lot of classical music especially in Europe. They do shit in America. They support it very much. So it's possible to be a composer, and you can get grants from the government to write music. And if you have 3 people at the concert or nobody buys, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's actually a great thing. It's not their fault that they don't have the quality. But there's something else about jazz. I'll tell you, in 1968, the Nefertiti record sold 5,000 copies. Now He Sings, Now He Sobs sold 3,000 copies. I know this because I know the record company people. And that was considered good, 5,000. Because it was like such a small thing. Classical music sold 20,000 from Rubinstein or Horowitz. And then the Rolling Stones and the Beatles sold, millions, okay? And there was not, with Bebop and Cool and Chet Baker, there was not this big pressure to sell. Nobody thought about it. It was like underground, like you say. Then Herbie and George Benson changed everything. First it was Herbie, Headhunters, which, by the way, is a great record. Forget about fusion, but bum 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 bum, funky beat, Harvey Mason, and with electronic sounds, great arrangements, great long jazz solos. They could play it on the radio. They could play it on the normal radio because it was funky. By the way, Herbie never sold anything out. His first hit was Watermelon Man, taken off 1962. Okay, so he was being true, and then that sold millions of copies. Headhunters, and it was a big scandal. All the jazz purist asshole critics saying, "Oh, that's over. End of story." Then Miles bitches brew. Oh my God, where's Miles? And then what put the nail in the coffin was George Benson, where he's singing This Masquerade. Okay, on Broadway.
On Broadway, yeah.
And by the way, it's a good record. He played his ass off. I played with him a lot. He can't read music, doesn't know anything, has an amazing feel, swinging, brilliant guy, and has a good voice. And that record sold 12 million units over like 5 years. And that was it. Then Dexter Gordon came back from Europe into America. They made a big thing from it. He sold many. So now there's a pressure on motherfuckers to sell records. Sorry.
No.
There's a pressure.
One thing, Headhunters on Broadway, this music swings.
I agree.
But it's based not on triplets.
That's right.
And this changed everything.
You're right.
But it still swings. This
still
makes
swings.
a difference.
That's right. It's
and
up
it
and
has
down.
improvisation, so we could mention it to jazz.
Very good. Is it jazz? It's still jazz?
I think yes.
So then
Does the Tower of Power swings? Yes, but
swings in what way? Not in the triplet way.
Maybe not in the triplet way, but it swings.
Yeah, I agree. Listen.
And this makes it to jazz and has an improvisation. Maybe not so much, but
that's where the term jazz rock, jazz fusion,
and it's probably easier to sell.
Yes, it is, of course.
Because nothing is more difficult than 3 or 5.
Yeah.
2 or 4. It's easy.
Yeah. I agree. That's very good. We've solved the problem.
Maybe, I don't know.
Think about the Miles group. I mean, the 1969. Not everything they played was like agitation or time or paraphernalia.
Yeah.
3/4 of it was boom, 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 up and down. Miles loved how Jack played the funk, which was very loose, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was still the difference between the eighth note thing. It's up and down. It's clearer to hear because you hear the 2 and 4. The accents, the actual accents are in the eighth note feel. Make it clearer because it lines it up. The triplet is so like circular, you can't catch it. And it's very hard to reproduce it. And it goes over the heads of most listeners. That's really the problem right there. So you're very, very good. Headhunters was not triplet, although it still swings in a different way.
Yeah.
So the question is...
And that's what I think about Tony too, by the way, when he played his jazz rock. Even if I don't like it too much, I must really say.
It still swings, of course.
But it still swings.
But here's
does the German guys, we not mention the names, does it swing?
No.
No.
No, not at all, in my opinion. Not even in the eighth note thing. Forgive me.
Yeah, and not everybody who plays My Romance
swings also.
Swings
we
or
know
plays a jazz song. Or is a jazz player.
Not every jazz player can swing, and not every rock player or jazz fusion player sounds terrible. There's nothing black and white about that. I remember.
But what do you think about, I mean, you are an ECM artist. I mean, he did a lot of different things too. So he changed totally. If I remember this this recording with George Adams and Jack.
Oh my God!
Where you're
Sound
singing the blues. I mean, we can talk once about this too. And then then he goes to Esbjörn Svensson or even to more classical music. I mean,
Yeah.
he played for him classical music,
Yeah.
but then more classical. It comes more and more away from the traditional jazz or the jazz what we would
because
say.
why? Because Manfred. I know Manfred very well, and he's amazing in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways, he's not. The record company was formed on his vision, not a democracy, on what he loves about jazz and improvisation. He was never a fan of real bebop jazz. He didn't like it. I heard him say it. He yelled at me about it. And look who he hired. He hired people that were in between, doing some new things. His favorite of all was Paul Bley. Paul Bley, a real genius, a great learning bebop guy, but had his own music so innovative, and beautiful, and could really fucking play. And he created ECM around Paul Bley. That was his favorite thing.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh.
He told me many times.
This was the first.
No, the
Keith
first
Jarrett.
record on ECM was Mal Waldron, which it was just ECM 001. It wasn't Manfred's idea, but he needed something to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And Mal's a nice guy, and he was living in Berlin, in Munich. So anyway, but Manfred loved Paul Bley and recorded him as much as he could. And he loved Keith Jarrett for the main reason is that Keith was very influenced by Paul Bley. And also Chick Corea when he was playing free. Look, there were not so many ways to play. There was straight ahead. There was free, like Cecil Taylor. And there was in between, like Paul Bley. And my influences are the early Chick and McCoy and Herbie and Paul Bley. Those are my influences. But Manfred had a vision. And there was a lot of wonderful music recorded that was not jazz, but it was great improvisation. Yeah. But would you call Elm a jazz record?
Yeah.
Me too. Why?
Absolutely.
Why? Because
Of Jack.
Because of Jack and because of
The improvisation.
and triplets, and burning out and
of
intensity.
Totally.
And what about the Abercrombie recordings? So
Absolutely.
jazz, right?
Jazz. Totally.
I agree.
Yeah.
We tried to push what was considered jazz because on our own it wasn't Manfred. We liked to break up the time. We liked interaction. It wasn't always ding ding ding.
I think these were the time then. I mean, I think
80s.
today, yeah, it's different. They're coming new stuff, and probably he wants to sell some things too, of course, which is okay.
He never thought about sales. I know he didn't.
Really?
He told me no, never did. And the greatest, I mean, the two amazing three of accidents with Manfred is that before the Cologne concerts from Keith, ECM was a real, like a European label with no distribution in America, very underground, very sophisticated, like, hey, you hear the ECM, right? And then Keith's record, the Cologne solo piano, double LP, sold massively because it found an audience that was not a jazz audience because it's solo piano, and he played a lot of things that were not so jazzy. And he played a lot. The stuff that sold was more classical oriented, classical improvisations, and boogie woogie stuff, and country stuff, and some great free shit too. By the way, they were all improvised. And he found an incredible audience: 5 million copies of a double LP, record of the year, Deutschschallplatten, blah 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 blah. Amazing. And Manfred made a ton of money. And to Manfred's credit, he put it back into the business. He still wore the same blue shirt and didn't move an apartment, Yeah. He used it to finance 1 million records.
Yeah, he loved the music.
He loves the music.
He knew
And
what
he
he
would have
loves.
kept going whether it was selling or not. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
He was a good businessman. He didn't record everybody. Then he had a very big success with Pat Metheny. Unbelievable.
Yeah, of course.
And the guitar, and it wasn't just the guitar, it was because John McLaughlin was Lifetime, and that was too raw for Manfred. Manfred had a real sophisticated European sense of taste.
Yeah, this is very good saying. Yeah, it's not the black rough.
No,
Let's
he
say
didn't like this shit.
this. Yeah, what we like.
What we like, yeah. And what many people like.
Yeah.
But the truth is, by accident, many people prefer the ECM stuff without the loud drums, without the rough shit. And that's why ECM is like people. Some people just buy ECM. They buy the title, like you buy a BMW, right?
Yeah.
And that's very.
We had. I remember when we were playing some stuff. I don't remember the song or whatever, but then they say, "Oh, can you play this simple like in the ECM style?" So it just means John Christensen or something like this.
Yeah, or Charlie or Paul Motian.
Yeah.
I saw a chart that Rich DeRosa wrote. You were there.
Yeah, I was there.
It said it's on the chart. ECM style, Richie.
Yeah.
On my own chart, for me, because he did the snow leopard.
Yeah, this is interesting. And now it's more classical.
One of the other great things I must say that Manfred did, and which is really honest, he was so successful with ECM from all the money from Keith and Matheny. He did great advertising. And then he created another line within ECM, ECM New Series. Gideon Kramer, Arvo Pärt, Steve Reich. He gave all contemporary music a voice. I mean, not my taste so much, but fantastic. Gideon Kramer as Lockenhaus playing Shibanowski and Arvo Pärt. He created him. He was a nobody, Estonia composer. Not my taste, but some beautiful things. And he gave them a platform, and that's the original crossover. And I was always thinking, hey, I should have been on that. I should have been on that in a way also, because there's a lot of stuff that I do, especially my solo piano stuff, that's not with the drums.
Yeah.
But they already categorized me, you know. But I'm an American jazz musician. I'm proud of it. I say, yes, of course I'm a jazz musician.
Yeah, and everything comes from jazz. I mean, you would not have the swinging kind rap music.
That's right.
And that's what I was listening last days by accident something. I don't know what it was on YouTube or advertising. They have now this kind of. It's even difficult to describe. Probably it comes from the computers. They have this since a long time. It sounds like you're hinking. It's not anymore round.
Oh.
This is the new thing, I think, now for the
Hinking?
drums.
Really?
Maybe you play it with quintuplets and leave one out or some things like this. I have to check it out. And it's not round, and it's a kind of anti-swing. It's a kind of...
Is it not satisfying?
I don't like it because it's like a hit in your head all the time.
But
like
what do the kids... What do they... But
some things
more
like
than
this.
syncopation, though, right?
Yeah, it's even...
Is it wrong? Like they take out a note? Or
yeah, it's not wrong because it continues, so you have a repetition. So what's wrong in a repetition?
But is it's still 4 beats? I mean...
I think it's not really a 4/4 beat, so it's maybe a...
And are they drummers?
I have to check it out.
It's computer generated or human?
No, it probably was beginning by computers and now it's human generated because you can play it if you learn it, of course.
It's
But
like a
people
broken
like
record,
it. It's somehow strange.
Because it's new, right?
Strange
Just
music.
because it's new.
Maybe because it's new. I don't like it. I mean...
Okay, I have a question for you, please. Right? There are some really good European drummers. Daniel Humer, I liked him very much. You're excellent drummer. I love the way you play. Is it possible for a European drummer to really play in that rough kind of American style?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say this in European. I mean, of course, it's important where you grow up a little bit. What are you listening? Of course, but I think it has nothing to do with a European genetic thing or something.
That's a very
like this.
important thing we came to in this conversation.
Yeah.
So there is no such thing as European jazz. There's jazz that comes from guys that are European playing jazz, but you can't define it in that way. Can you define American jazz? Yes. I think it's possible. It has a certain element of power to it. And also sensitivity, but at a certain point, I mean, Jack is very sensitive. Tony, amazing sensitive. Jabali, you, Al. But they also have this incredible power. That's not. I mean, Paul Motion was a wonderful drummer too, but he had no power. Elliot Sigmund, no power. Marty Morell, no real power. Mel Lewis, sorry, no power. I'm talking about that elemental animal thing. They didn't feel it. It wasn't them, or maybe they didn't like it, like Manfred, and they didn't play music that was like that. By the way, Bill Evans didn't have that either. He didn't have that power the way McCoy or Herbie has that power. That's a certain thing, or Joey. To me,
I still think it's a personal thing.
It's not American, European,
Yeah.
Japanese. Okay,
Yeah.
That's good.
Because you have a
I'm glad.
Klitschko who has an unbelievable amount of power.
Who?
Klitschko. He's European.
Oh yeah,
he's
the
Ukrainian.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be Mike Tyson to have power.
That's
You can
right.
be Klitschko too.
That's right.
I think it's a personal thing.
Okay. That's
But of course, it makes a difference if you live in a little village and you're working there as whatever. You have this in America too.
So it has
Or
also
if
to
you're
do
living in
also
New
to
York.
do also to do with association and environment.
I think so too.
Yeah, me too. Look, you were very influenced by Billy Brooks. Not just the style, but the attitude, and you found that, and you were drawn to it. So
But
that means it was in you.
Yeah, but I had it before too.
You had it before Billy.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sure if not, I would not choose it.
That's right.
Because there were some people who didn't like it at all. They were more, to say it positively, sophisticated. Not an animal. Not so pure asshole. Or how would you say? Just, I mean,
just realized something.
too loud.
Why do you have
not
to
weak? Weak is the wrong word probably, but they don't like it. So
too expressive, too
too
much?
expressive, too black, whatever. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Sophisticated animal.
Animal is a good word, I think.
I think so too. In the best way.
Yeah. And for jazz, this was, for me, it was also kind of rebellion thing.
Say that again. That's very important. Jazz is about rebellion, in a way.
Yeah. I think this has, for me, it had a lot to do with rebellion.
So it's political in a sense, whether it's personal or
Personal, not political.
personal rebellion.
Because I don't like this political
I
part
agree. It's
in the
too-
music.
I agree,
But
I agree.
personal, yeah. Against whatever, your father, whatever.
Yeah, normal
Normal
teenage.
things,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah. And I liked very much the idea you can express yourself the way you are and you want to be, even if you were carded then to play in a band.
Yeah.
You never. Oh, this is interesting. I think there were never a kind of teaching. Just play really how you feel in the moment and what you want.
I do that all the time in Leipzig. All the time I did it.
Okay. The way we were taught, the people had to learn the lines. And for example, we were playing like, okay, let's blues in 12
12/8.
keys.
Oh, 12 keys.
12 keys. So the drummer keeps the time and keeps the one if it change to another key. So you have to do something too. You play ding, 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 and they play okay. And so you step the half step up or whatever. So this is not really. This is learning the somehow.
Learning rules,
some
learning
rules.
the fundamental skills.
But we had not about music. Let's play something, whatever music it is. But do it in the frame, maybe.
in the form,
Do it
within
in the
the
form
rules.
of a song.
Right. That's the hardest
This was
thing.
not in
That's not in your
not
curriculum.
this
yeah.
was not there.
I think
And you can't do this with beginners.
No.
So
You have to do it if you're going to teach it. That's the thing, right? You have to be able to do it if you're going to teach it. You can't say, play like Jack or to play like Tony. You have to say, well, here's the essence of it.
yeah.
Good. Very good.
So no German jazz.
No, that's what we came to. Very good.
Yeah.
But we still say, German jazz, but it's really not right. We're bullshit.
But I still think if you want to learn jazz, you have to learn really the beginning rules. And I have the feeling
Which is not American, German, or Israeli?
No, but it's American at the end.
The attitude towards the rules is American.
Yeah, and you have to learn this. I'm pretty sure if you want to play jazz, even if you, or let's say if you want to swing, if you want to improvise, you have to learn the beginning rules.
I agree.
And this is not taught anymore so much. I feel like this.
Especially not now.
Not now.
With the...
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Let's have a drink, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.